I'm KC.
I'm Tyler.
And you're listening to
The Element Podcast.
What is going on, everybody? Guess what? It's kind of whitetail-y out there.
Man, is it?
It is
it's
a
like
little bit.
100 degrees right now.
It is a little bit hot. But there's people around the country who are needing some whitetail information. There's people around the country who are hunting whitetails right now.
Needy people.
Deer hunting, man.
Man.
That's what we're here for. So if you didn't know, today, the first episode of Rut Fresh Radio launched, and Tyler and I got coerced into hosting that again. Mark's deflecting as usual, but
We're co-heirs in that podcast. Is what you're saying?
we are hosting Rut Fresh. So if you need the report as to what's going on in your neck of the woods, go check out the Wired to Hunt feed, and that'll be launching on Wednesdays as well. So go check that out. We appreciate the support over there.
There's a lot. There's another commonality in those two podcasts, the Rut Fresh podcast and ours. Mm-hmm. They're both brought to you by First Light.
How about that?
Yeah.
Way to go, First Light. Appreciate the help.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Tyler has on a striking First Light hat right now. It's very nice.
Thanks, man.
You're welcome.
I'm not quite the striker that Eric Gentry is, but I'm glad he's on the podcast today. So normally when we talk about him, he can't defend himself.
Yep.
You know?
What's up, everyone?
But he's here today. He's got his what are those chongalas? Is that what they call them, right? He's ready to throw them at us. In case
Chola?
Slides.
Cholo.
The Cholo cactus. That's what he's got.
Dude, the whole antelope hunt, man. We were talking about the Cholo cactus.
Yeah. If y'all don't know, Eric is real funny, and he kind of gets the words jumbled up in his head a little bit. And it's not that he's very intelligent, right? But he didn't grow up in the South, so like there's words that he's new to. So sometimes he mispronounces them from time to time, and it's real funny for us, and hopefully for him a little bit as well.
Acapatillo.
That's my favorite, dude. What was the I-naturist? I can't even get that one right anymore. And refugee. There's all kinds of good stuff out there, man.
Some good ones.
Yeah,
Sure.
but today we're going to do a Q&A podcast that a lot of y'all submitted questions and thoughts about the early season, September and October, which, depends on what you call early season. Some people call everything before the rut early season. There's also pre-rut in there, and, around the country, things are doing different stuff, right? That's why whitetail are cool, because they're all over the place doing all kinds of crazy different things, looking all kinds of crazy different ways. However, we have hunted some of those areas around the country, and some of y'all think that we're worth asking a question to. So we're going to give you our best shot at answering these things, and Eric's going to present them to us. But before that, we actually have an audio question from old JC.
Yeah, everything that we're going to hear today mostly is oriented towards that kind of early season pre-rut stuff. I think some of these are going to be just a little more general and generic, just deer hunting questions too. So you get a little bit of everything, and maybe we can do these more specific as we go throughout the season and hit some of the stages of the season or the rut. But this is JC right here.
See, my question for you guys is, I hunt on about 1,000-acre farm here in Ohio, and we've just had like a really hard time trying to just pin down the movement of these bucks that we have on our property. We'll get bucks that'll just randomly show up. It's hard to keep them on the property almost, it feels like. It's like 3.5 blocks of woods probably. They're all pretty decent sized woods. But it doesn't seem like the bucks have any rhyme or rhythm to the way they move on the property. So I was wondering if there's any way just to try to either keep them on the property or try to pin their movement down. We probably have 5 cameras out across 8 stands on the property. So yeah, if you guys have any tips or pointers, that would be great. Thank you.
It'd be good to know a little more about the property, but it sounds like food would be a key factor to add to this property, because he did mention woods and in blocks. I'm not exactly sure, but I think that's more like the shape of the timber that he thinks about when he looks at the aerial. And then with that said, it seems like that's kind of like a big feature. So adding food would be probably pretty key. And then it also sounds like to me that potentially that they don't see a whole lot of buck action until the rut. And if that's the case, it is hard to pattern deer during that time of season, and there's no rhyme or reason to the way they move a lot of times. I mean, there are some subtlety, but generally speaking, the only rhyme you can find is that they're going to go after doe bedding and where the does are feeding too. So if you don't have the food, then that's exponentially the problem, you know.
Ohio is a state, I believe, that you can put corn on the ground in piles or from feeders, and if food is the issue, or could even be a secondary issue, you don't have to hunt over it if you got some moral obligation, against it or whatever. But you still could feed the deer and do that centrally in the property, and that'd be a good way to keep those bucks somewhat on the property. Now they do have to have appropriate bedding. And I'm not a big buck bedding guy. I don't think you can build specific buck beds and all that, but you might make sure that there's a good spot for those deer to hide out. If it is 1,000 acres, it's a pretty good sized place. And a lot of times on places that big, people like to run their ATVs around. So one of the reasons that you might not be seeing bucks consistently is they're getting bumped off there a lot. But the does don't seem to be as sensitive to that kind of stuff. And, you just have a big place. So sooner or later, there's going to be some deer on there. So you might look at the non-hunting pressure side of things somewhat, which I guess you could still call that hunting pressure. But, I've seen it a lot where, guys kind of treat the 2 tracks as like a highway. And I'm not trying to be critical of JC and his family or friends that are hunting there, but just thoughts, that might be happening. And maybe, if you're listening, you've had a similar situation. But if you can limit the amount of vehicle traffic on a place, especially ATVs, because they're loud and obnoxious, and to deer, they mean hunting. The only thing worse than them catching you doing the Sasquatch walk is driving your 4-wheeler by them. A truck is a little bit different, because a lot of times they're used to ranchers or whatever, and they're just kind of quiet and less obtrusive. But those are kind of my thoughts on that too.
A lot of people, this is a polarizing guy, but his name is Ted Nugent, and I've listened to him one time say, "So you're telling me I can't take the corn from the field over here and put it over here?" And, there's, when you said a moral problem with the corn, it made me think about that. It's like, man, it's just kind of using the most basic of human ingenuity to take the corn from the field and put it a little bit more advantageous for you to kill something,
That's right, man. And I don't really have a problem with hunting over bait at all. I don't sometimes because it's more fun to do something else. But, if you are trying to be efficient with your hunts, and you are working all week and you got how's the line in the song go? Working all week.
I know what you're talking about.
5'3", 300 pounds, right?
That one. That's a different song. I don't know that song.
So, anyways.
Who's that?
Oliver Anthony.
Christopher
Anthony.
Oh, Christopher. That
seems to be a popular song right now.
Indie people, they know.
That's
they know
it,
his
man.
actual name.
Redheads, they stick together. That's why Eric knows all about him.
Listen, he was indie for 3 days, man.
That's right. But... yeah, what were we talking about there? Oh, if you're trying to be efficient with your hunts, you got to work all week and you have, 4 hunts on the weekend or 5 if you're doing good, then, it's probably a pretty good idea to put as many things in your favor as you can.
Yeah, put a fudge round in your pack and go after
That's
it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Just don't make me pay for them.
So, I don't know. That's a good point, though. Man, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably like to hunt and shoot things, man. And we can go out and be hikers and nature lovers and stuff like that if you want. But I kind of have I have some goals when I go out hunting, and if I'm carrying a weapon, it's usually because I'm trying to shoot something. So,
we're going to have a Texas lease this year, and we're going to have corn on the ground at the Texas lease. Guarantee you. Because you know why?
We're shooting 50 cows.
That's right. If we didn't, the deer would be eating corn elsewhere.
I guarantee you they would.
So, anyways, that we might have even just kind of gone too much of a side trip on your question there, JC. But
I think we answered it for the most part. But I think those are things you got to think about. Man, that's a good point about the ATV stuff. Bigger properties can be that way, and also with those ATV trails, people don't want to maybe like to think about this, but those things might just go through some of the best habitat on the place. You think about some of the problems we had in Arkansas last year where ATVs were driving in the only dry spots around, right? They're on the high ground. So, where a deer or where you might want to hunt a deer is might have an ATV trail right down the middle of it. So, anyway, things to think about. We've got a billion questions, so we should probably answer a little faster.
All right. What are you running cams over, and how long are you leaving them if you're not getting pictures?
I haven't run one over yet.
Nice. I almost ran over yours today back there. I had to do like 9-point turn around back here by your deer feeder. But I right now I'm running one camera over corn, and it's running the battery dead because it's taking so many pictures because the deer are just hammering it because we're in a drought. If you're hunting public land, it's a good time of year to go out and maybe find those scrapes that are going to start being active, like the perennial licking branches, trails, fence crossings, creek crossings. Those are all things that we would run cameras over this time of year. Just haven't done. We really, have gotten to where we don't run a lot of cameras preseason. It's almost not worth it because those things shed their velvet, and at least where we live around, they shed their velvet mid-September, and around September 25th, they change everything they were doing, and it's hardly worth running a camera early. Now, if you want to move that into October, that's a great time to start thinking about those scrapes and stuff like that because those things are just going to start working and work better and better throughout the season. Any other thoughts on that?
I would say that I have seen some people send me some pictures of deer that have already shed their velvet, and I think that maybe with the drought, these deer just stopped growing earlier because they just weren't eating good, nutritious stuff or something. Maybe I don't know, or maybe just their velvet got sunburned, or whatever. But anyway, I think that potentially if you're going to go like what KC gave you that number late in September, maybe you could get them out earlier and do decent with deer that have already relocated after the velvet shed. But yeah, I would just emphasize trails as being, especially trails headed to food, right? Or trails near bedding. They don't have to move far in a lot of places, especially when there's not a drought like we've got. If you're in an area that there hasn't been really a drought, then they don't have to move far at all. So it's hard to catch them doing anything. But yeah, right now, trails and scrapes in the near future.
He asked, when would you move them? I really don't intend on moving cameras too often when I put them out. We run a lot of cell cameras nowadays, and usually if I'm putting a camera out, I'm actually probably collecting data later in the year with that camera. So like I don't do a lot of camera shuffle, but I know in the upper Midwest that's a thing. People do that a lot. So I don't really like if you're not getting pictures for a couple nights, just wait till about October 18th. You'll start getting a few pictures.
Yeah, I think in the South, cool weather is going to help a lot.
All right, next question is, what are some creative ways you found good access for morning hunts?
Just don't walk through the bedding, or where they're feeding, I guess, for the morning hunt. There's obvious stuff, right? Like you can do water access stuff. I don't know. One thing for me, like if I'm hunting, this is considering this is September, October mainly focused. Stuff that's closer to the road can be good. I think about South Dakota in 2021. We didn't really have to go far in, but there's so many times that I've been able to access from the road and not have to walk through a bunch of stuff because, those deer, they know they can just sit there and hear cars all day. And if it never gets any closer, that doesn't bother them. You know what I mean? So if a car does not get off the road or do something weird and they're just going by, those deer, they see it every day. So it's no big deal. So I think of that as like, being fairly inobtrusive. And then also, if you can get in early because you're not going very far in, you're hunting close to the road somewhat, you can get in front of those deer that are coming back to bed before they get in there and you mess them up. So I don't know. It's just, that's one creative thought that just hit me right off the bat, I guess.
You're a good guy for this because I've seen you do this a lot where you'll be hunting deer that are feeding here and bedding there. And that'll be like, the distance is X, and you'll walk X times 3 to get to that spot to go way around where they're at to not mess them up. And I can think of a spot on Texas Public that is kind of like that, where the deer are feeding on private and they're going to end up on public to bed that afternoon. And if you want to do it right, you got to walk in from the opposite direction as to what is easy to go do that. So I think it's just in the mornings, it's not about like making sure you're 2 miles back, but it
Right.
is about making sure that you're not bumping the deer.
Yeah.
Because here's something I'm starting to think about animals. I haven't thought too much about it in my past, or at least like actively thought about it. But an animal's one job is to survive, right? Let's take deer, for instance. I learned it with antelope too. And like when we're hunting antelope out there, if they caught you moving at all, which they're very good at, they have no reason to say, I'm going to overlook whatever I just saw and I'm still going to go that way. And deer are probably a lot like that too. Like if a deer, especially, if it's not in the rut or they don't have like one way out of a place or what, because deer don't ever do that anyways. They always have an escape from something. But if you give them any reason at all not to go over there, they're not going to do it. They're not going to like overcome something to go where they wanted to go. They're just going to change their plans. So you need to make sure you're not bumping stuff.
That's right, especially if you want to shoot a big buck. Because me and Eric were watching a video this morning of a 2-year-old buck that came really close to us in Kansas one year, and I got some really cool footage of him. He's smelling where we walked into the tree stand off edge of that field the whole time, but he's 2 years old, so he just lets it be a weird thing. He comes in towards our tree and looks, and he's like looking through our tree, like, where did this person go that's been here in the last couple hours? And then he just walks out and goes away. He didn't just keep following and try to find it, but he was inquisitive enough. A 4-year-old buck might even just literally run away. I've seen that happen on ground since, so do you have to be very careful. Good question, man.
All right. Best thing to target going into new public land?
Deer.
Yeah, I read that one a while ago. I was like, oh, there's a sarcastic answer in there.
I'm gonna keep on with those answers.
New public land, I think that you need to be looking at the map we use on X, and you need to figure out where you think deer are bedding, where you think they're eating, and try to get in between there. That's probably the thing to do. Now, once you get on the ground, fresh deer sign. I mean, it's something that I overlooked for a long time, but honestly, I did this last year. Went to a place, and it was mid-October. Never been there before. And wouldn't you know, there's a lot of fresh rubs. We hang at the tree stand. We see a lot of bucks. It's kind of cut and dry. Now, when you start targeting a specific deer, it's different, probably. I don't do that very often. But, when you're looking at a map, food, where they're going to sleep, and then when you get on the place, fresh deer sign.
I would say you might have said it in right order that time, but definitely I usually try to find food that's close enough that I think deer will destinate there, and then I can find from there I can figure out if there's bedding options for them and how far they are from the food and how far they are from the parking lot, and that'll give me a good idea if that's a place that's worth putting a blue ribbon on or not.
All right. What happened to the podcast? Why no more Why no more episodes?
Of podcasts.
It's a question.
I don't know.
I don't know.
But probably because they probably asked that because we missed a week.
Maybe. I don't know. But you're listening here. There is a podcast if you can hear us. Yep.
Strategy for extreme heat in Canada.
So like what, 60 degrees? I mean, I know global warming, right? It's climate change now.
Whatever.
So, which is funny. So, man, I've never hunted Canada. I'd like to. I've hunted some kind of northerly states that feel like Canada.
You better go before they outlaw it up there.
I don't think they will let me unless I spend a lot of money with an outfitter. But
that's right. You have to have an outfitter, right?
I think so, yes.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I would say the strategies would be very similar, like anywhere there's extreme heat. 95 in Canada might be extreme heat, and 110 would be extreme heat here, or whatever. So, I'd say water is potentially a thing. I would say that bedding must be like sometimes you can find deer that'll bed in sage flats or something like that, or something that's kind of a shorter, bush or whatever. And I would say if there's not shade, then there's probably not deer there when it's extremely hot for that location. So either bigger trees or some sort of evergreen like a cedar or a pine up there or something like that, or a spruce up there. Anything green, food source wise, probably would be what they would try to get water from.
One of my main points is I just still don't trust hunting water sources.
I'm not a huge truster either.
I know that Tony Peterson is all about it, and he kills deer on it, but he's very patient, I think, too. Mm-hmm. And so, like, sooner or later, deer will show up. And I think that you have to differentiate between, are you in extreme drought or extreme heat? Is it a hot day?
For sure. I thought the same thing.
Or is it a time where, for the past month, it's been drier than usual? And I think if you are in extreme drought, deer are easier to kill in an extreme drought. I think they're concentrated. I think they have to move to find food, and it's not always the funnest hunt. But it is sometimes easier to kill deer if you know where they're at, because they have to move to go to do stuff. Now, if it's just an extremely hot day in a normal climate, like, it's probably pretty tough. Mm-hmm. They just will hold until it's later. I mean, you can look at trail cameras right now, and on the really hot days, usually the deer are moving later.
Yeah.
And on the normal hot days, they're kind of out. So I think that would be a differentiating thing. But the green food source, I think, is a thing. I think, to go back to the water versus green food, I think that deer don't drink water every day, and sometimes they might. I don't know. But I think that they eat green stuff every day for sure, and they get a lot of water from that. So if you can find the green food, it's probably a better thing than the water.
Yeah. There was something else I was going to add. I can't remember what it was. I can't remember. We gave a lot of stuff there, though, I think. So there's some options, man. I mean, kill them. That was it. If you mentioned that they might come out last light because it's just in a hot day, And so I'd say, like, if you do the thermocell thing or whatever, it's probably pretty ideal because you need to hang in the stand as long as possible.
What boots do y'all wear?
I wear a lot of different types of boots. I think if you want to say, like, for most of deer season, wear a lacrosse. It's like the Alpha Agility.
I think that's right.
Is that right? It's a rubber boot that has a lot of neoprene. It's pretty lightweight. Usually wear no insulation.
Yeah.
And then I've got some crispy somethings that I wore, antelope hunting, and I've got some other lacrosse boots that I wear sometimes too.
I wear lacrosse Lodestars a lot when I know I'm not going to encounter water. And then the same thing, Alpha Agilities is what I usually hunt a lot in during the season.
Yeah, if you want me to stand behind something, that Alpha Agility.
I like the heck out of it. And here's the thing, guys, is like there are products that are built really tough and rugged, and there are products that are built light and fast, and there's those things usually almost never can actually fully cross. People can market it that way, but it's not really that way most of the time. These Alpha Agilities are really, really nice, but they are a neoprene top. So, just like a duck wader, you can get a hole in them.
Yeah, I had one tear last year, but I'm hard on them.
We hunt a lot too, and they're just as comfortable. I can walk a mile back in them and not have any issues.
I tore one. I'm still going to wear them.
Oh, for sure. Me too.
I'm not like,
I've got a hole in
I'm not
mine.
wearing those anymore.
Yeah. I could get a new one, but I'm not. I'm just cheap, but they're awesome. Yeah.
Where are the big deer?
Well, I can't remember the law. I never can remember it. But the further north you go, the bigger the animals get. That's it's like Murphy's principle or something like that. So as far north as you can get, the whitetail exists. Would be a good answer for that. And then there are certain states that it's really hard to get a tag in, and those are other good places.
Bergman's rule.
Bergman's rule. Yeah.
Yeah. That's it, man. You can kind of see what the department's management techniques are. If it's an opportunity, it's just like in the Western stuff. Like they manage on a unit by unit basis a lot of times, but sometimes statewide too. And Colorado is managed on. They want as many people to hunt elk as possible. And there's only a couple of units where like people might take 20, 30 years to draw and shoot a big one. But the rest of them a lot of them are managed just to shoot, nice bulls or smaller bulls. Arizona is a little different. Like even some of their mid-tier units might take you 10 plus years, so.
Unless you apply for a cow tag.
Then you get to shoot a big cow.
Then you get to shoot a big old Arizona cow first time.
Yeah, so, but that's the same way with whitetails. It's different states will manage differently. Oklahoma manages so that a lot of people can shoot nice bucks, but not, you don't typically see a ton of just giants coming out, historically speaking, from Oklahoma. There are big bucks, right? But they're in every state, and that's the thing. That's the beauty of whitetails. A big elk, he just can't hide. You know what I mean? He's like literally can be in the Gila wilderness, right, and be found by somebody and get shot by the governor's tag or whatever. A big whitetail can live in a city park and nobody even gives 2 cents about him his whole life, and he could be shot potentially, but he's not going to get shot because nobody cares about him in that area.
We love to dream about them city bucks, man.
I'm telling you.
There's some nice ones.
There are. That's the thing, though. I guess if that would answer part of his question is like, hey, man, maybe an urban, you see the Seek One guys shoot a bunch of urban big giant deer, and it's because those deer live without people pursuing them for most of their lives. And then also it's tough, right? It's tough to get permission or whatever they might do, or, find a place that you can actually shoot that deer on, even for the guys who are chasing that deer. So,
yeah, I think, I don't know what state you're in, but if you feel like you're in a state that there aren't big deer, it's worth traveling to go see if you can find some, because there are states, our state's huge, right? But we live in a part of the state where there aren't very many big deer. So it's worth traveling around. And a lot of times you'll learn a lot about where big deer do live when you do that kind of stuff too.
You can look at the Boone and Crockett map. That'll help you make decisions too.
Do you guys key in on food or bedding more this time of year?
Really food, probably for me. Like I can, if the food sits in the right spot and it's the right type of food, I can probably find where some deer will be. And if I do that 3 or 4 times, I can find a buck that's a shooter buck, probably, in one of those spots.
It's really like the line between the two things. You're trying to set up in the most advantageous place for you as a hunter between where the deer spend its day and where it's going to spend its night. But the food is a lot easier to figure out and probably a lot more important because most of the time there's one good food source or or a destination, but that deer might can bed 100 places.
Yeah, a deer needs like 8 square feet to hide.
Exactly. So the food is the thing you find first.
You make a good point though about setting up in between, Ryan. I was thinking about it from a scouting standpoint, but from a setup standpoint, generally speaking, if that's what you're talking about, you would want to set up closer. If you don't know where it's bedding, you want to set up closer to that food source in the evenings. And then if you can figure out where it's bedding, you can hunt mornings and set up closer to the bedding in that situation.
Yeah, that actually is a good thing to bring up, man, because you don't want to hunt in the evening. Well, you could, and it would work out for you. People shoot deer with soybeans in their mouth, right? But most of the time, a big buck is going to arrive at the food source usually later, maybe even after shooting light. So it's good to kind of push in a little bit, backtrack from that food.
I'm thinking I might shoot one with beans in its mouth this year.
That'd be cool.
I'm going to try, dude.
That'd be awesome. Man, you watch some videos from some of the Real Tree guys or whatever, and they're out there at 4:30 with deer in the field just eating alfalfa.
It looks cool. Fun.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to make that happen.
Let's do it.
Is there plenty of public to hunt in Texas?
No.
Well, it depends on.
If you're trying to hunt doves, then there's
for real.
Some places. There's plenty for the amount of people that are doing it, but I wouldn't say that it's a destination.
It's not like there's other places where you'd have more space for sure. I've hunted November, second week in November in Iowa and seen nobody.
Yeah.
On public.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen in Texas.
No, I would say like if you're wanting to come try it, do it. But if I'm speaking like logically to you, and I'm not trying to mislead you and tell you don't come to Texas, but literally, if you're in another state, don't make Texas a public land destination because you could be more efficient with your money.
Also, if you have some sort of private connection or just a little extra dime to spend on some private permission in Texas, that is certainly the way to go.
Oh, yeah.
But, it goes back to like the can I move the corn over there and hunt? And if you got a problem with that and if you want to hunt and make it harder on yourself by hunting public land, and give yourself a challenge because you're, so good a hunter or whatever it might be, or if you're bored or whatever, then go do it. For sure, go give it a try.
Yeah.
It's just to me at this point, I get a little bit frustrated when, I walk into a spot that's a really good spot that I've map scouted or something, and there's a tree standing there and a camera that's taking my picture, and it just feels like a dude was in here 2 days ago on Saturday. You know what I mean? So, or just plain and simple, like we had a dude that killed a deer in a spot the day before we hunted it, and then he came in and got his stand the next morning while we were in there at 7:50 in the morning. Messes your whole. And when you get up at 4 in the morning or 3 in the morning, it hurts you, man. It's not fun. And of course, stuff can happen on private, but it is just way less likely.
Tips for hunting early season mornings.
I use a 3-blade mechanical.
That was a good one, man.
Dang, dude.
You're moving fast
I'm
on that
gonna
one.
keep on. I'm going to keep on.
Early season mornings, we kind of covered a little bit of that earlier, but I think it's don't bump the fields or the food sources when you're trying to go in where you're going to hunt. Y'all, if you listen often or you watch stuff, you know that I actually really like mornings in the early season because you get a lot more cooler time of day in the early season in the morning. So I think be patient, especially if you're in the cover. Sometimes it takes them a little while to get somewhere. Deer either move fast or slow. That's like how they do stuff, right? And unless it's the rut and they're cruising, they're either like getting somewhere in the morning, early season, or they're like just lackadaisically walking back. And it might be 9 o'clock before they end up where you're at. And in fact, sometimes they're waiting on the morning thermals to kick in before they actually move to a place. So you got to let that sun get up so that, they'll have a consistent wind and know kind of where they need to go for the day. So I think that would be one of my big things is to be patient.
Yeah.
How to find potential buck bedding while e-scouting a property.
Tyler, you're the best at this. So.
This is September and October. Kind of goes back to earlier what I answered. Here's a thought first before I say this. Buck bedding is a term that is used often in the last couple of years. And, man, buck bedding south of the Mason-Dixon is maybe a little bit of a farce or something like that. It's like they can happen. There can be a buck that beds in a certain location like 5 days a week. It can happen, but we don't see it often. And I think that when you hear the term buck bedding, a lot of times you hear it or it originated from somebody who is very far north in the U.S. a lot of times, or pretty far north, which ends up meaning that if you don't hunt that area, then it may not apply to you. And those areas are a lot of times in hill country or have different elevation changes, and or they're in marshes where there's only so much dry ground to bed on. And if you don't live in hill country or in a marsh, then those are two places. Those are kind of the two places that I think of buck bedding. I think more in terms of deer bedding, and then sometimes you can observe or sit as an observation to figure out if there is a buck that is bedding in that area. But for instance, this is far north, but it's not a marsh and it's not hill country. But in South Dakota last year, if you watched Buck Truck on the Meat Eater channel, you saw me bed a buck and go in and hunt him and shoot him that evening. But guess what? The evening before, Eric and I sat in the same place and saw 2 bucks, including a small one, but one that was bigger than the one I even shot. Both come out of that area in where they were bedded, and we did not see either one of those the entire next day from the time the sun came up to the sun went down, and we only were gone from there for a couple hours eating lunch. And so they were nowhere to be found. So you could call it buck bedding because there were some bucks bedded back in there, but there was also does bedded back in there. The first one that came out that evening I shot was a doe. And so it's really, I think people need to just make sure and understand that, like, finding a buck's particular bed and just hunting that buck might be just a dream that happens every once in a while if you don't hunt in the right area or whatever. And it might even be, it might even be a little bit of hyperbole when you hear about it. So I guess my point is that's my big disclaimer to say, find deer bedding. And the way to do that, typically, I like to see, if you're looking for bucks too, especially, I like to see a place that the food source is far enough away from a road that they would feel comfortable at least. Well, it didn't even have to be that far from the road, actually. If you want to shoot them close to the food source, then it does. But otherwise, if it's the right food source, they'll destinate there. And then from that food source, typically like, I don't know, quarter mile anywhere up to close to a mile from that food source, an area that's very remote, far from parking, far from human activity, and potentially has like some sort of water that can grow brush around it.
I'm on that further.
Sorry that took so long, man.
It's okay. I was following. I was tracking. I have a little theory I developed while you were doing this.
All right.
You're talking about this. Because I was looking on the map today for buck bedding on a place that we hunt. And trails are going to show you that a lot of times, especially when you're talking about bed to food. If you can look on the map and find trails, you're going to be able to find places that deer are bedding, because you'll see these places that the trails kind of spiderweb into, and then they don't leave from the other side, right? So you know those deer are staying in that area. And I think that especially bucks, but deer in general, they kind of reset every night or every morning, every day. So like they only know what goes on in their world from what they perceive. And I think that bucks, I'm going to have to follow this throughout the year as a theory, but I think that bucks like to cover more distance so that they can perceive more about their area and know what's going on in their area. You know what I mean?
Like a buck, in preparation for the rut, you're saying?
Yeah, or even just in the day. Like, you can think about it like in a rut situation. The reason bucks are cruising is because wherever they were, they didn't have what they wanted. So they are going and taking in more stimulus from other areas, right? And so even in a bed to food early season pattern, bucks are liable to want to cover more distance so they'll know what coyotes in the area, what hunters have been through there, what other bucks have walked through there, where do the does go, however they think, right? But I think that they very well, because I've always been like, man, there's no rhyme or reason as to like why deer cover so much ground. Like some states we go, there'll be a food source, and then these deer walk by a whole bunch of good habitat to go bed over in that place. It's like, what are they? Oh, hi.
That's old hands.
You'll be like,
Glad that wasn't on video.
You'd be like, why are they doing that? And I think it's just because the more ground they cover, the better they feel about their surroundings. So there might be something to that to think about targeting buck bedding.
Dude, even on a micro level, you think about like the J hook into a bed situation. It's like, yeah, the deer comes in to scent check, right? He's trying to learn more about that area before he beds in it.
Yeah, so exactly. So if he has to make a big old loop from where he's bedding, go up a ridge and then drop into a field where it has a canal along the side of it, and he walks that whole thing to get to the food, well, he's done figured out who's in the neighborhood. Whereas, like, if he beds right on the edge of it, he doesn't really know what's going on except for what he can see.
Daggum, deer are cool, man.
They are, man. That was a long-winded answer.
It was.
Sorry.
When do you all switch focus from water to pinch points?
So if we're talking about early season, probably I bet I am almost always thinking about pinch points. Now, pinch points in the rut are a little more effective. I get it, right? But you think about the deer you shot in South Dakota last year, you're still kind of hunting a pinch point, even though there's water there, right?
I mean, yeah. I wouldn't say he was forced to where I was at, but it's either walk in the open or walk near the tree line.
Dude, it's kind of common sense, and this is a great question, but it's kind of common sense that at one point in my life, I spent a lot of time in the woods not seeing deer. And then I decided, kind of in the back of my mind, I'm going to hunt a pinch point every time. And you start seeing deer because they have to be pinched. So, like, if you want to have efficient hunts, hunt a pinch point every time in some sense of the word, and you'll probably see and encounter more deer.
Man, it's really, like, I think there may be something there, too, where, like, you hunt pinch points a lot, too, because when you're pre-scouting on X, like, your whole mentality is when you're really starting to narrow down your spots, you've got like a bunch of them on the map. You're like, which one do I go to first? You're wanting to go to the one where you can shoot one with a bow. And for a bow hunter, it's typically like, I need to be able to shoot 40 yards one way and 40 yards the other way, like 100-yard pinch. It gives me a lot of chance there,
Yeah, dude, think about some of the places that we've hunted in more open states. You'll sometimes set up and be like, dadgummit, I'm just like taking out a swath, and he could walk over there, or he could walk over there, anywhere he wants to, and then you'll sit there and just watch deer all night and not have any shots, So it's like those pinch points are where it's at.
They are, man, and we've seen it in Texas when we hunt on public. There's a place that we had a lot of good encounters last year, actually, and I think about this area, and it's very flat, right? There's a reason that nobody killed in that area. Because it's very flat. There ain't much to pinch them. There's a bunch of deer in there, though.
Yeah.
Because, it does. And so it's like, eventually, the odds are you'll run into one. But when you go out of state, you got like 5 days.
How much time do you have?
That's exactly right.
Manage your expectations and put yourself in the best situation possible.
What am I doing wrong? Only got
Everything.
deer. Only got deer on camera at night on public land.
You are not close enough to where they're bedding. That's the plain and simple of it. And here's the thing that's fun about public sometimes, because if this was you on private land, you're probably toast.
Yeah.
But on public, you have place, like, generally speaking, you have a way to find these deer or get closer to where they're bedding, because you have thousands of acres a lot of times. And so so let's just think about the first nice buck I ever chased on Texas public land. We called him Teenager, and I found him at night close to a food source, and I was able to go, he's coming from that direction, so I'm going to move a camera to my that direction, a couple 100 yards, and see if I can pick him up on my next idea of a pinch point or whatever, right? Didn't find him. Move the camera again to a different direction, in same direction, general direction he came from, but just a different place that there was a pinch point a couple 100 yards from that. And lo and behold, he's on there in daylight a bunch for in February, in January, right after the season. And so that's the way to do it, essentially, in my opinion, is just find out which way these deer are coming from and just start backtracking down those trails. And you can do it as small increments as you want. But if you really want to narrow down where they're bedding, that's where it's at. And it's not that you don't stand a chance. You just might have to wait till the rut if you want to hunt where your camera is.
There's 2 other things that I thought about in that situation, too. There's a chance you haven't found their most limited resource, because that's probably the thing they're going to go to first. So whether that is food or water, or if it's the rut, does, whatever it might be, there's a chance that you are just not quite on the thing that they want to be at, because deer will meander throughout the night and go try to eat this or whatever, and you might be getting some of that. The other thing is that you just might not be in good enough cover, because deer will daylight in places they feel comfortable in. But then, we all know this. You drive down the road at night and you see deer in the road ditches because they have something to eat, but they have the cover of darkness, so they feel comfortable, right? So you're probably just in a place that they don't feel comfortable during the day. I'd say bail off in the cover and find a place to put your camera at in there.
Yep, good thoughts.
Angel says, "Take me?" ?
Angel, you know what? You get to proverbially, man, I missed the word up. Proverbially, go with us everywhere we go via the Element YouTube channel and the Meteor YouTube channel on the Buck Truck series, which, by the way, the final 2 episodes of Buck Truck are going to launch the first week of October.
I would not make any bold predictions here. But I would say that the latest on the street is last week of September, first week of October.
Okay.
Well, there's a couple more episodes, that
Tyler's really excited about it.
Yeah.
No, we are excited about it.
We are, actually. Yeah, those episodes are really cool. But here's the thing, guys, is I think I've addressed this, but there's not a formally Buck Truck series coming out this year. So what that allows us to do is get a lot more stuff out to you a lot quicker, and potentially, you need to be subscribed to the Element channel, because there's going to be very potentially a lot of deer hunting videos coming out on the Element channel.
Our own Eric Gentry.
Let's go, dude.
He's going to be on there quite a bit.
Let's go.
Yeah.
There is a question: where's the Buck Truck heading this fall?
Well, it might be headed to your driveway. If you'd like to purchase a Buck Truck, reach out.
For real. Should have put it in that House of Oddities thing.
Yeah, we should have.
That's a pretty
That'd
odd
been
thing.
a pretty good deal. Man. Man, I wish that's a good thought, dude. I wish we thought
just
about
hit
that.
me. Just hit me.
But they would have wanted me to donate it at that point
See,
in time. No, I wouldn't have done that.
Greg's the only one doing much donating
That's
around
right,
here.
he donated.
So,
So the Buck Truck's heading a lot of places. The next place it is headed is New Mexico.
All right, first year hunting Oklahoma on opening day. Gonna be hotter than what he's used to. Any tips?
I'd wear minimal amounts of clothing.
I would too. Actually, so this would be a great question for our buddy Brian, who you've heard and seen on some of the podcasts and such. Brian is a very big proponent of using the First Light leafy suit with nothing on underneath.
That's right. However, I feel as if you're going to hike in, there might be a little rub involved with that. So you might want to be careful on that deal.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that would be it. Don't try to not sweat, because you're not going to. You just have to make sure and just be real mindful of the wind. And I don't know if you smell any worse if you sweat, if you don't. I think deer smell you the same.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think
people
so,
kind
too.
of overemphasize the sweat thing.
Yeah.
I think it's just the way it is.
Yeah, I would just probably wear something that keeps you cool.
The trace stuff, man.
Trace stuff.
I like that stuff a lot.
Yeah.
If it's real humid, you're going to be hot no matter what. But that trace stuff, if it's, if you got any breeze or dry stuff at all, that stuff works.
It
good.
really does, man. It's pretty cool stuff.
And
man.
there's zips, man. You can get some ventilation.
That's right, dude.
Yeah.
Hip zips.
Yeah.
For early season tree stand hunting, do you favor morning or evening sits?
I'm an evening guy, like year round, but it doesn't mean that I don't like morning.
Yeah. I'm mornings more in the early season. I think evenings, they're both great if you feel good about your setup. But evenings are a good time to, if you're in a place where you can make moves on deer, to maybe not be in a tree.
I like evenings because I like to be able to see as I access and get real sneaky and get up in there and get them killed.
That's a good point, too.
Is there spots you avoid in the mornings, and do you panic if you're running late?
KC doesn't.
I couldn't.
For sure.
I couldn't live if I panicked because I was running late. Now, the running late thing, I do run late sometimes, but it's not always. A lot of times I run late because there's just circumstances, right? Like Eric and I, the other day, we had a great plan, and then there was trucks there, and it ruined it, and all of a sudden we're running late and panicking, right? But I think for sure we've hit it a few times, but it's worth saying. I avoid the food sources in the morning. Do not go and bump deer off the field.
Yeah, so even close to the food source, because as you're going in, deer might be seeing the first light even better than you are, and they're leaving the field and working their way back slowly. So you might be 300 yards from the field and still be. So that's where like doing those loops and stuff might be a pretty good idea.
This is from Timber Ninja. Have you tried the guacamole? How do you say taki? I don't know how you say
Takis.
Okay.
No, I don't eat that trash, man.
My kids probably have. Journey, have you tried the guacamole Takis? Guacamole? Oh.
Good. Way to go.
What's wrong with Takis?
That's right. They're gross.
Disgusting. Oh, are they good? Well, Jet says
Jet
they're good.
approved.
Yep.
All right. What's the most important thing to consider for early season hunts?
Man, that's a very general and broad question. But if you're thinking about whitetail tactics wise, we just go back to what we said with the finding the food source.
I think that's exactly it.
Yeah.
I mean, at that time of the year, the deer don't have anything else on their minds except living.
Yeah.
So they have to eat.
And part of that living that time of year in a lot of places is fat reserves that so they literally, it's not even like they're just, eating because they're hungry.
It's not maintaining.
Yeah, it's like they're eating so much food, especially up north, man. Like those deer are fat in September, man.
I think maybe then there's something to that to get a little bit deeper. Early season deer are going to do the same thing every day until something bumps them or they change their pattern because they start to feel a little ruddy or whatever. So maybe if you want a different answer than food, it's go in to kill. Don't go in and bump them because you're kind of halfway working or whatever because you're going to mess up the pattern. Like there is a lot of times there is a just set up pattern as long as they haven't been messed with, and if you pick the right day, you can go kill them.
Yeah, I would say also if you're thinking about like early October, you grunted in a deer one time, so even on those patterns, when you start getting just into October and the nights start getting cooler, it's not a bad idea if you throw out the Hail Mary grunt call because it can work like it did that day.
What is the best method for spot and stalk in thick timber with a bow? No saddle.
I'd say just be super quiet and slow. And try to work the opposite direction that deer are working. And if you can see a deer before it sees you and get real still, then you can shoot it.
Yeah, I think you're going to have, you go back to the food source thing, you're going to have deer that travel to a food source from a bedding area, and then a lot of times maybe even they like that spot because they're going into the wind. So maybe you use like the 90-degree rule that we talk about where you're working kind of across the wind, trying to get into those deer, right? And then, like KC said, I don't think you can work slow enough almost. 3 small, quiet steps and glass.
Yeah.
I
almost want to change my answer. I don't think you can spot and stalk deer in the timber. You can still hunt.
Yeah.
Which is probably, people use that a little bit synonymously, but they're two different things, right? Spot and stalk is like you see it and then you walk in range and shoot it, and you could do it. I shouldn't say can't, but it is not very effective. Still hunting, I think, is the way to do it.
For sure.
Yeah.
For
like
sure.
once you're like on a deer, let them come to you.
Yeah. I kind of assumed that that's what he meant. But yeah, that's what I was saying is basically you're still hunting, which is very, very slow stalking through the woods, essentially. And you just want to glass as much as possible, I think, because even in the woods, you're looking at stuff 100 yards plus sometimes, and it's maybe just a couple of gaps, but you got to be able to see that deer as soon as he is within your sight. Otherwise, he's going to see you.
How do you approach getting to hunt a new piece of land you didn't get to scout beforehand?
I feel like you have to start on X. I would for sure, even if it was like, oh well, there's a truck in your spot and you don't have any, plan Bs. I'm going straight to Onyx. Or if somebody was like, hey, I'm going to helicopter drop you off Bear Grylls style in this spot, I guess I don't know how else this happens, but as soon as I hit the ground, I'm on X, and so the first thing I'm doing, and I don't know if this is like an e-scout question or not, but that is how I'm scouting it, and I'm basically using just my experience and knowledge hunting over the whole course of my life for the last over 25 years to make assumptions about where deer will be based off of what time of year it is, what the temperatures are, and what other resources are in the area. Thinking about the limited resource that KC talked about and making assumptions. And then from there, it's just going and doing what KC's taught me the last several years and just seeing everything with your eyes all at once.
You know,
asking the question why all the time.
That's a good point. We got us a Texas deer lease this year, and the guy we leased from had a couple different places that we could choose from, and he's kind of old school. And I was like, "Can you send me pins to all those places?" And he could, but he was like, kind of taken back that that's what I wanted, and I didn't want pictures from his phone that he sent. I was like, "No, I want to be able to look at it on the map." And so I think that that's exactly the right thing. And then once you establish the place that you're going to, you probably need to there's like a fork in the road, and you need to decide if you're going to trophy hunt or if you're going to deer hunt. If you're going to trophy hunt, I would say put a bunch of cameras on that thing. That would be the thing to do, to figure out what is the biggest deer on the property and make like a hit list and do the whole thing, right? Or if you're just trying to deer hunt, have fun, go out there, use your woodsmanship, set up and shoot a deer. That's I think that might be another thing to throw in there. It's like you need to decide how you're going to approach the property.
Yeah. Trying to shoot a big deer trophy hunting and stuff, you might play a little more conservative, even in your scouting. You're, on the ground scouting.
There's nothing wrong with in-season scouting either. Finding signs during the season. So.
Yeah. Like you talking about like crop circles and stuff?
That's it. Final two questions.
Oh my goodness!
What's your preferred spine for arrows? Heavy or more flexible?
Okay, so the person who's asking this question, it seems like they're trying to dabble into kind of the deeper parts of archery, which is like arrow building and setups and tuning and all that. I'm going to try to approach this like how do you say this? I'm not trying to tell you that you're dumb or anything, right? But that there's not really a thing called preferred spine. Spine is the stiffness of the arrow in relation to your bow setup, and it's pretty much a set number depending on point weight, and draw length. So, like there's not really a preferred spine, but I think what you're trying to get at is maybe like arrow weight, because spine is different than that. Spine is a stiffness. There are light, very stiff arrows, and there are heavy, very stiff arrows, and there are light, flexible arrows, and there are heavy flexible arrows. Okay, so don't think that spine means weight, because they're two different scales, right? It's just, think of it like a plastic straw and a piece of spaghetti, right? They're probably about the same weight, but that piece of spaghetti has a lot higher spine than the plastic straw does. Okay, so in general, we all end up shooting a heavier spined arrow because all of us shoot 70 pounds. Eric and I are like a 28-inch draw, or 28 and a half. Tyler's 29 and a half. So like we need a heavier spined arrow. If you are a shorter draw length, you're going to want a lighter spine because, for one thing, your arrow is shorter, and a lot of times you're not putting out as much energy from your bow because of that. So I think all that to say, don't think of spine as something that's adjustable. You pretty much are set at a certain spine for your setup. Now, to answer the question I think this person is asking, do I prefer heavier or lighter setups? I like to err a little bit on the heavier side in most situations for whitetail, because I just like to be able to shoot whatever broadhead I want to and know I'm going to punch through the animal.
Ditto.
I don't know if y'all can tell, but it's not that Tyler can't, but he just doesn't really care to clog his mind with a lot of that information on the spines.
I'm just very similar. Like shoot heavier. KC shoots a little bit heavier than I do, but I would consider it a heavier arrow. And I would give the advice that you can go to your local archery shop and they give you at least a decent idea of what your spine should
That's
be
a
most of
great
the time.
point, dude. Like, go to a reputable archery shop, and like, if you don't want to have to mess with that stuff, you don't have to.
Yep.
Yep.
All right, last question. Favorite movie of all time?
Well, I've got 3 to choose from.
Because there's one you've watched.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a tough one, though. I don't know, man. Was it Spectre by Golden or James Bond Spectre series, or from the James Bond series, the Spectre movie? I think, is that the one that opens up with that epic, like, multi-storied building scene?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't watched it.
That scene, that opening scene of Spectre, I think it is, was insane. That was, I think, was that Daniel Craig's first?
I've
maybe
never
second
watched a
video.
Daniel Craig James Bond.
They're good.
Yeah, I bet.
It was weird because I grew up with Pierce Brosnan, and that was like, dude,
He is James Bond.
He is the James Bond.
Yeah.
Like his name is not actually
Yeah.
Pierce Brosnan, right?
Yeah.
But that was a good one for sure. But I don't know, Sandlot's up there for me too.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Dadgummit.
Yeah.
Yeah, Eric, you're going to have to answer this question too. So think about yours.
Well, he just said mine, so.
Sandlot's it.
No, okay,
Yeah.
I'll choose a different
not
one.
Cardinals in the outfield or whatever it's called.
It's Moneyball or Sandlot. So.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. I never watched Moneyball. Man,
What's
that's a hard thing for me to answer too, because I really liked Two Towers, which was the second in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and then probably Revenge of the Sith, which is episode 3 of Star Wars. It's in the prequels, episode 3. I like fantasy, if you can't tell. So, yeah, and to tell you what, dude, it's kind of a cliche answer, but Avatar, the first one, was bad to the bone. Like,
I saw it at an IMAX.
yeah.
It was awesome.
Me too. And it wasn't like it was the best movie, but the special effects or whatever, the animation was just insane, right? So, I don't know. Those are my off-the-cuff answers, I think.
Cool. That's it.
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't answer.
Well, Moneyball or Sandlot's
Moneyball.
mine.
Not
Okay.
Hardball.
No. Well, Hardball's good
What
too,
about the
actually.
Rookie? Do you like the Rookie?
It's all right.
It's
What
all
about
right.
Angels in the outfield or Cardinals in the outfield? Yeah.
What about what's the Robert Redford baseball movie? I like that one a lot.
I don't think I know.
And it's like, oh man,
Natural?
The Natural. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was good.
Yeah.
And then Kevin Costner had a couple of good baseball movies. What was the name of the? See, Field of Dreams is my least favorite of those. I liked Bull Durham a
Yeah,
whole lot,
that's a
and
good
then there
one.
was another one that was just a little bit more of a nice story. Do you remember what that was?
I think I can't think of the name though. So
What's the name of Wild Thing? What's the name of that movie?
Major League.
Major League,
Yeah.
dude. Major League's a classic. It's real good too. Oh, it's awesome.
Imagine that. What about what's the one Kevin Hart and Will Ferrell were in? Yeah, I Get Hard.
It's
That
a
one
cop
is
movie.
funny, man.
Yeah.
Those guys are hilarious.
Oh yeah. Maybe we should break that down into like
Yeah,
favorite
genre.
comedy. Yeah. What's your favorite comedy?
Yeah, that one's good. I mean, that one is a good one.
Which one?
The Get Hard or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
I like that
Kevin
one.
Hart.
I'm trying to think. I feel like there's another one that I really like, comedy wise.
Man, we're probably dating ourselves as millennials, but I think a lot of us are going to say Will Ferrell movies.
Oh,
on
yeah.
this, you know,
Mine's
like
not.
Talladega Nights is one of my favorite comedies of
It is.
all time.
I don't even know if I've seen the whole thing.
Oh, my gosh.
I've seen most parts of it though.
Yeah, that and Happy Gilmore. It's hard to beat.
Classic.
Yeah, we were talking about that. See, in youth class, we were talking about Happy Gilmore the other day because even the kids, like 10-year-old kids, love Happy Gilmore.
Really?
Yeah. So Adam Sandler is timeless.
Yep.
He is. He's a talented guy.
He is.
Good basketball player.
Yeah.
He's good at. He plays guitar too, I think.
Does he?
Yep.
How about that? What's yours? Favorite comedy?
Dumb and Dumber.
Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness, dude.
It's pretty good. I'm not. I think that's like a classic movie
Oh.
for our generation, but it's not. It's not one of my favorites.
Yeah.
It's good.
No, Ace Ventura.
Oh, that is hard to beat.
Dude.
Jim Carrey, funny guy.
He is a hilarious guy.
Yeah.
The was it the When Nature Calls?
Yeah.
Is that the one when he does the? He's in the Jeep, just like
Oh, yeah.
going.
Yeah.
And all, it's a smooth road. And he looks.
There's something in my teeth.
Hi ho, Silver, away!
Okay. This kid, favorite animated movie, Eric?
Oh,
Oh.
which ones have I seen? Have I seen one?
Yeah,
Mario?
you've seen a ton of animated
I saw
movies,
Mario.
dude.
I don't even know.
Yeah?
Does Ninja Turtles count?
No.
No, I don't know. Because that's claymation, I
Yeah,
guess.
claymation or something. Yeah.
No, I don't know. I don't really have one.
If he's
Space
thinking about
Jam?
claymation, then his favorite is it Rudolph?
Yeah. Yeah. The Rudolph movie.
Because he's in it.
Oh, yeah.
You remember?
Not Simon Cornelius.
Cornelius.
Yukon Cornelius.
Yukon Cornelius.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's
him.
Eric.
I guess Space Jam. I don't know.
There's some animation to that. I'll give you that one. Yeah.
Man, that's a good one.
is a
That
good
might
one.
be mine too.
It's Cassie's favorite. I really like Aladdin a lot.
Dude, the new Aladdin
I didn't
is
watch
rock
it.
and roll, dude.
Yeah.
That thing is cool. Yeah.
Yeah, Will Smith is the genie in there. It just didn't sell to me.
Well, dude, this was before all that.
What? No, I'm not. I'm just saying. I'm not saying like his slap thing.
He was really good.
Was he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of all that, do you remember All That? It was like the kid version of SNL when we were younger.
Yeah, I remember that.
Like all that note.
Yeah, that's it.
I always liked the that slime thing on Nickelodeon, whatever that was called.
Favorite childhood cartoon.
Like what I watched, or like
Yeah, you mean you had to have watched it, right? But like
What did I watch?
Cartoon you watched a lot.
I didn't really watch a lot of Land Before Time.
Oh,
Yeah,
That's a
good
movie
one.
though.
Well, it was animated cartoon. You mean like a
I was
series?
like a
TV.
TV, like
Okay.
on TV. Yeah,
When's your childhood end?
18 according to
Yeah,
Americans.
well, maybe. If you say like 13, there was a series called Batman Beyond, which was kind of like an edgy Batman. That was kind of like for preteens. I thought
Yeah.
it was pretty cool. Yeah,
I loved Recess.
it was. Pretty
That's a good one.
Yeah,
TJ Detweiler,
Yeah, you remember the names?
I forgot about that.
Mikey,
Yeah,
I'd have to
Mikey
say,
Snyder.
I'd probably go with Rocket Power.
I don't even know what that is.
You don't remember Rocket Power? Well,
You remember
is that?
Pepper Ann?
Yeah,
Yeah.
You sing that all the time.
Pepper Ann.
And there's something with your sister at Pepper Ann.
Yeah, she's like, I guess she just loves those theme songs so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I pretty much only watch action and comedy.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, honestly, what are the vampire movies that we watch? No,
Transylvania? Hotel
no,
Transylvania?
Hotel Transylvania. Those are hilarious.
funny.
That's
Yeah.
Adam Sandler. He's
Is it?
he's Dracula.
Oh,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah, those are good.
To wrap it up, favorite classic outdoor TV show.
Man, of all time, like series or
Yeah,
episode?
do whatever you want to with
does
it.
that count? Crocodile Hunter? Does that count?
What is that?
Crocodile
Is
Hunter?
that the Steve
Crocodile
Irwin
Hunter?
show? Is that what it's
Yeah.
called? Crocodile Hunter? That's not what it's called, is it? Is that what it's called? Do you remember that or what?
Isn't it? Now I'm
That's what
like
I guess.
questioning. Yeah, it was Steve Irwin, right?
Crocodile Hunter is the name of the show.
I have to look this up now. You
That's
got me
weird.
weirded
I mean,
out.
that's like
I know
his name.
everything else about him except that.
Yeah.
Steve and Terry Irwin, Bendy, and whatever their son's name is.
Bambi. Yeah, I've typed in Crocodile Hunter and Steve Irwin came up.
Okay.
The crocodile, known as the Crocodile Hunter. Yeah. That's what I thought, but then he was like making me question my
No, I just don't
entire
remember the name
childhood.
of the show at all.
Yeah, I don't know if you can say that one.
No.
No, that's not really. It's got to be hunting, right? Or
Yeah.
fishing.
Which I did watch Steve catch a pig one time. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
It was like in a waller, and he just went out there and grabbed it.
I know your favorite,
What's that?
Jose Wahembe.
I liked that. Well, I was thinking hunting, but Jose Wahebe's
Wahebe,
Spanish
yeah,
Fly
no.
was good.
Yeah.
That's a good show. Yeah.
Okay, so can we do fishing and hunting?
Sure.
All right. Let me think about this. You
Yeah.
got one yet?
Not really. I mean, never
You
really
didn't
had
grow
a,
up watching it, though. right?
I mean, I did,
The
but it was
element.
like I didn't have a favorite. It was like
Yeah.
I liked Jim Shockey. I liked
Yeah.
Lee and Tiffany. I mean,
My favorite was the ranch buck.
So growing up, there was like kind of 3 or 4 camps, right? So there was like the real tree stuff, there was the mossy oak stuff, there was the Primos stuff, and then
I feel like Primos and Mossy Oak were in the same.
kind of, but mossy oak was its own deal though too.
Yeah.
You know, Cuz and all them. But
Yeah.
I was a real tree guy. I liked real tree. Because they traveled kind of up north and went to cool places and stuff. So I think real tree outdoors, like the original stuff, is my favorites.
The first DVD, the first VHS, first video I ever bought that was a hunting video, was Whistling Wings 1. And I think it was 1, maybe in 2. But I ended up buying several more after that, and that was Mossy Oak, Toxie Haze. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever, dude. I would watch them every night going to bed. Same VHS over and over and over again. So I can remember that. But I think like as I kind of grew up, I remember like even in college, I watched Realtree Road Trips all the time, and Michael Waddell was the man, right? So
in college, we were watching a lot of Jim Shockey. My friends were all rifle hunters, and we're into like that kind of Western thing or whatever. So we watched a lot. Like when Uncharted came out, which I think was the other show, right? That's
Shockey's show.
Yeah, it's the second show he had or whatever. Like when that came out, we were like scheduling our weeks around it to watch it when it premiered and stuff, So it's cool.
About fishing.
Favorite fishing show? I was enamored with saltwater when I was a kid. So like I watched anything saltwater I could. And I think there was a couple. So there was The Hunt for Big Fish with Larry Dahlberg.
Man, I was thinking that was a different guy.
Was one of my top things I watched. And then Mark Sosin had some good fishing stuff I used to watch. He had a weird hat. He did.
Fishing guys, they got weird hats. Bill Dance.
Yeah.
Custom made. They have to be. There's no way that hat's sold anymore.
I liked Jimmy Houston and Roland Martin a lot.
Yeah.
Those guys, I watched them a lot.
I watched a show when I was little. It came on after school, and I'd just run in there at the lodge. My dad's fishing place that they had, and we had a little tiny TV that sat in the kitchen. Probably like a less than 144p these days.
Yeah, You could see the red, blue, green stripes in the
old TV. And there was a local show because we only got like Channel 7, and it was called Larry and Barry. I think it's called Honey Hole Fishing with Larry and Barry.
Yeah,
I think.
Honey Hole. I remember Honey Hole Outdoors.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And then they fished for largemouth bass, pretty much.
Is that the same Barry as Barry, East Texas outdoorsman, Barry or whatever?
I imagine. I don't know.
Because what was that guy's name? But he did that East Texas fishing stuff, and that's where I first saw doodle socking. You know what doodle socking is? They take a big old cane pole, and you tie like an AC plug or something, like a topwater 6 inches from the end of the tip, and you just go down the bank and you just splash the water with the end of that pole the whole time, and bass will come up and hit that lure. Pretty cool.
Doodle
We might need to try it sometime.
Yeah.
It's like an old technique of fishing,
Sounds kind of fun.
Yeah.
Doodle socking, huh?
Yeah. Anyways, all right, that's your early season whitetail podcast, guys. Thanks for the questions. I hope you got to go down memory lane with us as well, and I hope you kill a really, really big buck in the early season this year. Remember, this is your element.
Live in it.